Special session for our budget meetings for 2025. We're back in session. We were recessed until 10:30 this morning. And our first presentation will be from the Regional Sewer Department. And I look forward to hearing your presentation. And I think everybody knows everybody. I don't think we need to make an introduction. I think everybody's aware of everybody, and we made introductions yesterday. So with that, Tiffany, I'll let you introduce the people that are with you and let you take over.
Thank you. Yes, Tiffany Mag, Director of Environmental Services. Here with me, I have Eric McPeak, who's the Deputy Director of Operations for the Sewer District, and Gina DeWitt, who is the Fiscal, Utility Billing, and Administrative Supervisor. So with that, we can probably get started. So first slide here is our 2024 year in review. So we had originally budgeted, as far as the capacity fees up there with the revenues, we budgeted for $6.5 million for this year. We have had a really booming year. We're forecasting to be just under $18 million in tap fees for the year. We're currently at $14.8 million through the end of October. So we've had a huge year. We're looking at over an $11 million increase from what we had expected with the budget. We have added, we've added 1,803 new connections through the end of October for this year, and in comparison, that's double what we had added for the same time period in 2023. So really big year for us here with new tap fees. That also includes $461,000 in tap credits that were used. So that's it would have been even higher without those tap credits that were used for some of those subdivisions. Moving on to the inspection fees, we budgeted pretty close to what we ended up with. We were a little higher. I think we're $88,000 more than what we budgeted. Same thing with the plan review fees. I think we were kind of right on with both of those two numbers. And then as far as the new subdivisions, the plans that were approved, there were 16 residential single-family subdivisions approved this year. In comparison, we were at 22 for the same time period last year, so a little bit lower on the new plans moving forward. Also, we had 6 multifamily, commercial type subdivision or developments, and in comparison, there were 4 for the same period last year. So a little higher on the multifamily, a little bit lower on the new plans coming through for residential. As far as user fees, this number, the $1.3 million variance, is due to the high number of new connections and just an increase of roughly that 1,000 new users that we had not budgeted for. And then other sources, we are slightly higher on that as well. The majority of that number is delinquencies that are assessed to the taxes. So that's why we're also seeing a little bit higher number. We have more users on the system, a little bit more delinquencies, and we do certify and collect almost all of those at the end of the year. And then as far as the operating expenses, services and charges, we were $1.5 million under our budget for this year. That is due to, we were planning on doing the arc flash study, which was a $300,000 effort that we did not get to do. We're gonna budget that for 25. Also, there was some maintenance and repair, back box rentals that we didn't do that we had budgeted for, and some sludge services. So those added up to about a $1.5 million decrease from what we had budgeted. Materials and supplies, we were pretty close, just about $70,000 less than what we had budgeted. That was mainly because of some tools and equipment and some pumps that we did not purchase that we had budgeted for.
I have a question, just to make sure. It says 2024 actuals, forecast from period 10 data. Are we projecting a period 11 and 12 in those numbers, or
Yeah.
this is just first 10? It's 12 months then?
Correct, it's 12
Okay.
months, yes.
Very good, just want to make sure.
Yes, that's why I mentioned, so through beginning of November, we're at 14.8 million in tap fees, but we're showing 17.7 because that would project out the next 2 months.
Okay.
And then salaries and benefits were about $1 million under what we had budgeted, which you see the asterisk there. That's basically just vacancies. We had quite a few vacancies this year. We're still trying to staff those up for next year. So overall, with the total revenues, we were about 12.9 million above what we had budgeted, and then with expenses, 2.6 under what we had budgeted. So really good financial year, 2024.
Okay.
Any questions on that slide? All right, so then moving on to 2025. So in this one, we've added that third column, the 2025 budget. So We have budgeted $12 million in new tap fees for next year, and that represents, let's see, we have a total number on that. So we've included 1,481 new connections in the budget with that $12 million. So that's about 680 more than we budgeted last year, but 700 less than we're expecting for 2024. So we feel like it's still a little bit conservative based on the number of new plans that we're seeing coming in over the course of the year. Inspection fees and plan review fees, Justin helped us with those numbers. It's just kind of a minor increase, I think about a 3% increase on both of those numbers to account for what we're seeing on what has come in 2024. And then user fees, there is currently no scheduled increase on user fees at this time. So the $22.975 million number is based on the connections that we received in 2024 plus the budgeted connections for 2025. And then other sources, like I mentioned on the previous slide, this is mostly the delinquencies. So we have budgeted a number similar to what we were seeing for 2024 on that as well. And then as far as operating expenses, services and charges, this is kind of a slight increase from what we had budgeted for 2024. That's due to some plant upgrades and parts that we're budgeting for next year. I'm going to talk about some of those a little bit deeper on the next slides. Also the Nutralock system that I'll explain in a little bit more detail what the cost is on some of those additional odor control measures we're adding to our new treatment plant upgrades. And then materials and supplies, this is also a slight increase. Like I mentioned previously, that arc flash study is going to be performed in 2025, so we're budgeting for that again. Also, we've had an increase to the vehicle lease cost, as well as utilities, chemicals. I'll dive into those a little bit deeper as well in the next slides. And then finally, salaries and benefits. This is a slight decrease from what we budgeted for 2024. We're planning to basically fill vacancies. We're not proposing any new positions for 2025. Any questions on that? Oh, I'll talk about the employees a little bit more on this one. So we budgeted for filling 10 vacant positions in 2025, 65 total employees, 65 active employees currently, and then 10 vacancies. So trying to get to the 75 number if we can in 2025. Okay, and then as far as the revenues, diving in a little bit further into the tap fees, you can see that we had the 2024 forecast to be at $17.7 million, which is really a huge number compared to what we've seen. And you can kind of see how that compares to our 2025 budget. But kind of looking at the bullet points below, I mentioned we're budgeting for 675 more connections in 25 than we did in 24. We've added 1,803 ERUs, or the new taps to the system through November 1st. And also included those tap fee credits that I mentioned, 461,000 that would have been added to that 17.7 million. We did see 503 more multifamily connections compared to 2023. So that has been something that has certainly been an increase, and you see that in the monthly development updates, that's a number that is continuing to really be kind of a hot trend in the county to build the multifamily developments. And then the last bullet there, we're looking at several additional large multifamily complexes representing 613 new connections for 2025. That's what we kind of have on the books right now as far as plans that have been approved. 95 of those will get tap credits. And then also the tap fees are not anticipated to increase in 2025, and the user fees are currently at $39 per month. So this is just a trend of our 10-year tap fee history. So you can see that from 2015 to 2024, how things have kind of slowed down a little bit, kind of right when that COVID period was hitting, and ever since then, been a pretty steady increase into 2024. Has been really booming for us. So we just want to kind of show you kind of how that looked over the course of the last decade. So then, as far as those notable budget increases that I mentioned on a couple slides ago, so chemicals, We have seen increased chemical costs, and you've seen that through session with some of the resolutions that we've had on having to rebid some of these chemicals because the vendors are not locking in those same prices for 2025. So we budgeted $129,600 additional for all the chemicals combined for 2025. And the most notable ones are the bioxide, which is fed at the pump stations for odor control and corrosion control, and then also the ferric, which is a $60,000 increase on that one. Then we have leased vehicles. This is a $78,000 increase over what we spent last year. And then the Nutrilocks, consumables and equipment, this is just because we're adding new units. Like a good example is OECC, adding at the new screen building, adding a Nutrilocks unit for odor control there. So it's just an increased cost because of the new unit and needing to replace those carbon filters on a routine basis. Arc flash study, so like I mentioned, we did budget for this in 2024, and I think because of the zillion projects we had going on, we didn't get to it, so we want to budget it again for 2025 and make this a priority. It's time to do that again. I think we did it probably 6 or 7 years ago.
Right, yeah. And the other reason we didn't do it this year is all of the new electrical equipment that was going in, we wanted it all captured in the study, because the studies are good for 5+ years, so.
And then we're looking at also doing this AI coding software for our CCTV, which basically what it is a program where they'll take all of our existing CCTV videos that we have, put them into this AI coding software, and then it'll spit out for us basically what our system looks like from like a GIS layer type perspective, where we can start to prioritize, where do we have issues in the system, and kind of look at hot spots on a map, so that we can actually try to determine how do we move forward with future rehabilitation projects and just prioritizing the system on kind of a recurring maintenance type perspective. And then the last couple bullets there, so overall we had a 1% budget increase in this O&M number for 2025, which we felt was really good. I think that's one of the lower increases we've had in a while. Majority of these expenses are similar to 2024, but these are the ones that are more notable. All right, so now I'm going to talk about our future service area, the capital projects that we're looking to bring to Central Allen Creek, Harlan Township, and kind of just what that strategy is for future service. So Central Allen Creek, I think you're all aware of the current status on this. We're still working on trying to get that Army Corps permit to discharge into the East Branch, which on this map is discharge option 2. Still working with the EPA. And trying to move this project forward. So we did budget $700,000 for 2025, which would get us through the facilities plan and begin design, is what we really hope we're able to get accomplished this year. And then finish design in 26, construction by 27. And then the East Allen Creek Pump Station, so this is just east of where the plant would be located. You can see, no, I can't see my mouse. So on the west side of this map, you can see the green box, it says WTP. That's where the future Central Allen Creek treatment plant would be located. And then over on Africa Road to the east there, kind of south of 36, 37, we have an existing East Allen Creek pump station. This pump station services the outlet mall area as well as that area that we service in Sunbury. Sunbury has a lot of development going on, a lot of multifamily. There's a lot of activity in this area to the point where we need to upgrade that pump station. We did an interim upgrade in 2024, but with the continued development in the area, we need to build the new pump station sooner rather than later. The original plan was to build the new pump station when we had the plant and just direct the new pump station through that red dotted line all the way into the plant. So to service the near-term needs before we have the plant, we need to build that pump station now, send the flow south through the red solid line, and then in the future, we would redirect it into the new plant.
But we'll still be able to use it.
We'll be able to use it now. We have capacity downstream for the near-term needs, yes. So we budgeted $420,000 for design as well as beginning construction in 2025, which maybe is a little, that might be difficult for us to get that far in 2025, but ultimately in 2026, we need to have this project finished, which we budgeted a total of $3.5 million for it. And then the last one is Harlan Township. So as you know, we've talked about this trunk sewer project. And this is a map that shows some potential different alignments that we would build that trunk sewer. The first green one is kind of right up Harlem Road. And that may be, a lot of easement coordination, not sure that's gonna be the most desired alignment. The second option would be the blue one, that kind of cuts through just, a couple parcels versus, a variety of different parcels with, private property owners. But then the third one, the orange one, we've had some feedback already from some consultants that might be our best bet to go through a development parcel on the south side, and then up through, kind of near that mobile home park and up through another developable parcel. So that remains to be seen. The plan is for us to put an RFP out to hire someone to do a preliminary alignment study. This would include geotechnical analysis, kind of figuring out what that subsurface looks like to determine whether we can do open cut or need to do some micro tunneling. But ultimately, this is gonna be right out of that shaft at Smothers Road. It's gonna be a 72-inch sewer where it's kind of the pink color. That'll be a 72-inch connection that comes out, and then it would allow us to proceed east with a 48-inch. But then on the other side, on the west side of that 72-inch, eventually Columbus will connect in with a 30-inch. So that's why that connection has to be a little bit larger. So we budgeted $500,000 for design in 2025, and then construction in 2026.
Is the trunk line gonna be finished in '26?
That's what I would anticipate. Yeah, I think this is gonna be, depending on easements, this will be a pretty substantial effort. So that would be the hope, is that we would be kind of right on the heels of that Columbus trunk sewer, being, having that developable property ready to go.
Okay.
And these alignments are up for discussion. If we hire a consultant that comes up with something better, that opens up more acreage, we'll look at whatever makes the most sense for the benefit of the whole area.
Sure. Yeah, I understand, and we communicated that with the Harlem leadership that we've talked to. None of these are final,
Right.
But the line is there and going to be, developed here in the near future.
Yeah, I have a couple meetings next week with some of the trustees to get their feedback and just
Right.
see if we're heading the right direction or if they have other ideas. And, we'll certainly look at all the different options that we have with the consultant.
Yeah, I'm not sure they've really landed on exactly how they have an initial plan, but I know they're still working it, so.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, I think this will be a really exciting project in 2025, trying to figure out how to make this work and get the feedback with the trustees and
Right.
the local folks over there.
Right.
Yeah, it'd be good. And this is kind of what the city of Columbus had in their technical memorandum as to how sewer service could potentially, kind of cover the entire Harlem Township planning area. So I just put this in here so that you were aware that, kind of what that tributary looks like. Everything generally flows from the northeast side, down into where the tunnel is located at Harlem and Smothers. And then that eastern portion kind of has its own trunk sewer that would flow into that tunnel as well. So they set it up based on topography, obviously. That's why that you get that kind of jagged boundary. It's just based on what's able to be serviced by gravity into that tunnel. And then a couple additional projects on the O&M side as well as the capital side. So O&M, we're gonna do a rehab project on our East Allen Creek interceptor. We have some issues there, with some corrosion and some leaking pipes. Really just time for us to do a rehab project on that interceptor, which was one of the original interceptors near the Allen Creek plant. Leather Loops area, sewer rehab project there, trying to take some of the infiltration and inflow out of those sewers. We do have, that's a pump station service area, and it's our pump station that has the most capacity issues, so just trying to reduce the flows into that pump station. Lower side of the building and roof project, this is an ongoing project that you saw we did some work in 2024 and proceeding forward with additional work in 2025. And then Trotter's Gate pump station improvements, this was a pump station that we saw some capacity issues and some force main issues, looking at doing some upgrades there to kind of maintain that station moving forward. And then on the capital side, the Sawmill OSU extension, we're just planning for design for 2025. This would eventually be where on the Sawmill Parkway, where that new OSU complex is going to be going in. phase one is able to be serviced by our 8-inch sewer, but phase two would need an upgrade to a 12-inch sewer. We already have a cost-sharing agreement in place between, I believe it's Powell, Ohio State, and the county. It's roughly a one-third split on that, project to build a 12-inch to service that future phase two Ohio State project. And then Jewett Road trunk sewer upsizing project, we have a bottleneck at Jewett Road and 315, so we're getting out ahead of ODOT's roundabout project to make sure we get out of the way before they build a roundabout,
Yeah.
to take care of that bottleneck.
Yeah, I know that's high on ODOT's priority list, is to
We
finish
tried to
that.
incorporate it into ODOT's plans just from a maintenance of traffic perspective, but it was just really difficult to make that coordination happen, so we figured let's just kind of get out of their way and then let them do their thing with the roundabout. And then Berkshire Township pump station design, we still have this in here, anticipating, once there's a project large enough for us to, be able to make that move forward, we kind of keep that design money in there, assuming that whenever the interchange, starts to move forward, we'll see that development need. And then finally, Delco, we're doing that reuse study, we budgeted $100,000 for our 40% share. That's something that we're gonna see the RFPs back, I think, next Tuesday. So we're excited to kick that project off and, figure out if we can find a way to make reuse work in Delaware County. All right, with that, I'm gonna kick it over to Eric for our treatment plant projects update.
I'll go through some of the projects. I'll try and go through these quickly, so feel free to stop if you have any questions. Speak up. So with OECC, the big project, $46.4 million build, we're about 85% complete. There's a lot of work to be done next year, including aeration, clarifiers, tertiary filtration, solids handling, and then final paving. But we're hoping to wrap that up in the third quarter of '25. We're through our $5 million grant that we received for this project, and we have the OWDA low interest loan and our own funds that are finishing out behind it. But it's going pretty well. Here's some pictures. This is the new headworks area. So underneath this is infrastructure that was existing that we reused. The wet well for the influent, all of the sewage comes in here, and this saved us, it saved us a lot of money off the bat, but if we would have tried to do all that concrete work during COVID, there's basically concrete shortage, and the cost would have skyrocketed. So this is the final product, and looking out from there at 315 here, you can see before winter, luckily we got this stuff planted, hopefully the grass stays, replant in the spring if it doesn't, but we're working on rehabbing some of that, so it looks a little bit better from the road. This is our screenings building. It's complete, and that stainless steel structure there on the right is the Neutralox odor control that Tiffany was talking about earlier. And here's the landscaping on that side. We have a nice screening berm, trees planted on top, and we got some of the trees are a little bit medium sized. They'll take a little bit of time to take, but the younger ones actually will take better and grow a little faster. So looks a lot better from the road. These are our 3 new blowers that we have at OECC. They replaced 5 old blowers that were about 20 years old. These are much more efficient in electricity. These are much more efficient with electricity, and we're getting great performance from our aeration tanks. And the 5 blowers that we removed, I'll talk about it here in a minute, but we're reusing them in Elm Creek to save some electricity over there. Here's some pictures of the aeration tanks. You can see the foam in the foreground. That's from the diffused air coming up from the bottom. So there's a lot going on here, and we're seeing really good treatment, which is a good thing. I think it's going to last a while. I had this same graphic in the last one, but just to remind you guys, this is Elm Creek, and all the things we've touched in the last 5 to 7 years out here. The yellow is we're wrapping up the Elm Creek post-treatment project is what we call it. The main thing is UV upgrades. So here's our new UV units, and how they work is they come out like this and are accessible to repair. And because they're installed at an angle, they get more contact time. So we get really good we're seeing really good treatment out of this. Also, we're gonna save a lot of money over the years with these. We're able to get a really good price on them. They're easy to work on, so the maintenance costs drop down a lot because of that.
Wow.
Basically, those UV lights have about a 7 to 9 year return on investment. That's based on kilowatt hours. Of course, we can't really control the cost of electricity, as that may increase, but we're really running efficiently compared to where we were. There's also the two blowers I mentioned from OECC that are going in Elm Creek. They're smaller blowers, so we can actually use smaller blowers to work on, or to do the aeration at Elm Creek, which is gonna save on electricity. So that was a really nice little bonus that, the superintendent's team worked on this one. And with this project, we're about 74% complete. We'll be done with, the furnaces that we're installing, or the most of the remaining work will be done, early in '25. And those are replacing some old, water furnaces that use treatment water from the treatment plant, kind of like geothermal units, but they're very, they've turned out to be expensive to maintain. You have to pay to pump all that water, so we're moving away from that. Okay, our package plant project, more on the west side of the county. So this is section line road, force main going in there to send, flow from our new pump station that's going to replace site reserve treatment plant. And also in that same trench is the force main bringing clean water back to site reserve for irrigation, which is 85% complete. We might be done with this by the end of the calendar year. It just depends on weather, and I think they're waiting on some supplies. The
Where-
plant,
Where on section line is that?
that is close to home road, I believe.
Okay.
I believe. Okay, the, plant upgrades, we're about 7% through that. We're working on ordering equipment at the moment, finalizing some mills, things like that. But here's the pump station going in the background, the building in the background is the site reserve treatment plant that will be decommissioned. And that project's gonna go on for a while, probably the end of '26 before we wrap that up. We have a project, at North Star, we've got a contractor on board, we're quite a bit through design. We're waiting on, EPA permits to come through for that, to change it from a land-only plant to an NPDES plant. We're still going to reuse, or send effluent water to the golf course for irrigation as part of this, but we're partnered with Nationwide on this. In general, the current agreement is, they'll probably be responsible for 70 to 75% of the cost of this upgrade. We're gonna get some things out of this too on our side, so, we're looking forward to starting that here in the next, few months, construction. Another thing we have budgeted is a proposal for, solids handling study. So we have annual costs that are fixed for managing our biosolids, our liquid sludge, the treatment plants, that don't have dewatering, that we can haul out and dry out cake and things like that. I know I've said this before, but our plants make clean water and biosolids every day, and we can't let the biosolids sit for too long. We got limited storage, odors happen, especially once they're dry and out of liquid format. And the equipment repairs we've seen, they range. We have, belt filter press rebuild, Brown Creek budgeted. It's pretty substantial for this year. And you all had to be part of our unfortunate downtime. Rentals that we always come in here on Christmas Eve and ask for appropriations, not this year. But, those can be expensive. So what we really wanna do is take a holistic look at what we're doing. We know we have equipment that's old, the Elm Creek equipment especially. We wanna look at possibly a different technology, update with similar technology, look at, it's called thickening. Basically, it removes, it's a step before you completely dry it to haul it off-site. And we've had a lot of luck with that at OECC. That got installed as part of this project. OECC is set up with redundancy necessary and everything, so, that'll be part of this project from, hey, we have a resource here that's in, as we start to strategically look at how we're gonna manage and haul. We also have this is something we must do, we have to do, the costs are excessive, so we, you know, they're large costs on our annually. So we really wanna take another look at this and make sure all the myriad of equipment changes to our process, you know, all overhauling that we can do with our current truck drivers, we really think we're gonna get a lot out of this. Not just from an operation and value standpoint, but also financially, so. And then the last topic I'll talk about is the solid waste transfer station. The fund balance right now is just under $3 million. We have projected revenue for 2024 coming out to $345,000. And we're budgeting next year for 350. I really think it'll end up being more than that. And I'll show you on the next slide the increases we're seeing. This, I mean, obviously the flow's a little hard to predict, but we seem to have increased our customers at the location for sure. This year's budget is down 14%. Salaries, consultant and contractor fees for basically repurposing the old site. Rumpke's still responsible for things going on at the new site, as far as anything that needs fixed or repaired or added. And we are responsible for the old site and keeping that up. So we'll start looking into doing some things there. The building needs some attention, and we're just trying to do that, just, you know, with budget in mind. The fund balance, of course, the operating contract runs for 5 years, then it re-ups for 5 if we decide to, and then it re-ups at the 10-year mark also, so, or no, it's through the first, I said that backwards, apologize. It's a 10-year contract with 2 5-year re-ups, so they, you know, they could operate it for 20 years, but if we decide to leave the contract early, we have to pay the balance of the capital, so that's the reason for the fund balance for 10 years, so we feel pretty good about that. The graph here is the line, and the line with the dots in it. I don't know if you can even see the mouse, that's okay. So those are monthly totals, and the axis for that there is on the left. So when you have time, you go back and look at how things have changed over time. This is in 2018, right before we switched to Rumpke, in the middle of 2019, basically, is when that happened. They operated the old site, and you can see I called up when the transfer and recycling center opened in October of 2023. So we've got a year of operating the facility. And we've seen a lot more flow, a 21% increase in tonnage. And that has a lot to do with the traffic flow, also the floor and the size of it, and how it can be managed differently in the old site. So we're glad to see just an immediate benefit from that. We've also brought in, we started this process reaching out to the city of Delaware. One of the things they were interested in was the ability for us to take their recycling. And Rumpke is heavily invested in recycling as a company, and so far we've brought in just north of 17,000 tons of recycling. So we handle all of the city of Delaware's recycling needs at the transfer station. And we've also, this year from April till September, this will continue, I think we have a 3-year agreement, and as long as things go well, we'll continue. DKMM is doing electronic and hazardous waste drop-offs at the old transfer station site. And so far, they brought over 13,000 pounds of hazardous waste, disposed of correctly and all that, and 97 TVs. And they're out there a few times a month, and we've heard nothing but positive things about it, and it's good because, you know, as you all know, it used to be once or twice a year, you had to be here for that Saturday at the fairgrounds to drop off, so it's a nice service to offer. I think that is our last slide.
Any questions or observations?
I wanted to go and dive into Central Alum Creek, just make sure, you know, you talked about that, and you did, so I don't really have any additional questions on Central Alum Creek, or Harlem was another important topic, but, so I'm pretty good.
Yeah, I think I should have mentioned on that slide on Harlem Township, I think that we are anticipating that trunk sewer to be more expensive than we had originally discussed. So that's something that I think Tracy's already reached out to one of the trustees to talk about
Right.
whether there could be some tip sharing to cover that overage from what we had originally anticipated. Basically, we met with City of Columbus and discussed how we were gonna be able to access that tunnel, and the fact that we were likely gonna have to do micro tunneling to get out of the tunnel with a 72-inch, and that the 72-inch would be paid for by whoever needed it first. That was kind of a little bit of a, something different than what we had originally anticipated. So, that's where I think some of that cost is gonna be increased from where we had originally thought.
Mhm.
That's for Harlem.
Harlem Township, yeah, so our connection out of the tunnel, and
Okay,
then kind of bringing it up with one of those 3 alignments or
Mhm.
whatever alignment
right.
will be more than we had originally talked about, $7.5 million. Not sure what that number is until we select an alignment
Okay.
and a method of
Sure.
installation, but it's not gonna be that pricey. So,
Sure.
we're kinda gonna work through that.
You said, did you say you had the contractor already?
We don't, no, we just put together a request for proposals. So
Okay.
we'll hire a consultant first. They'll do
Okay.
an alignment study and figure out what that subsurface profile looks like. Then they'll be able to determine how we're gonna install it, which will dictate the price.
Okay,
So at that point, then we would put out a bid package to hire a contractor to build it.
okay,
So we're a ways out from doing that.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, on the transfer station, again, another important project I know you all worked on for several years, and it seems like it's going well, 20% plus increase in volume going through there. What's been the reaction? I know we've gotten some feedback on the pricing, that certain types of drops were very expensive. So I'm just interested in your thoughts on that.
So I know we did have that initial feedback,
Right.
where the price went from paying by the pound to paying by the ton, as 1 ton being the minimum. There was certainly some negative, feedback from folks that like to drop off significantly less than a ton. I think we kind of dealt with those as they came in, and we haven't heard anything since, I think, the last time you and I talked about it. I don't know if you guys have heard otherwise, but
I haven't heard anything in a few months, probably.
I got a call 3 or 4 months ago. It's still, if they're cleaning up their place and they're in the rural areas, it's probably a couple times a year. So probably a spring, maybe a fall. So they're in sticker shock when they go. Because, so I don't think it's gonna, 3 or 4 months without a call doesn't mean it's not still an issue. I wish we as commissioners had known, and we didn't ask the questions, and you didn't see the concern, and I understand that. But going from, was it $10, $15?
that might have been the minimum for
That was,
a short period
To
of time.
$60, so 100% increase,
but,
it's hard to sell to somebody.
well, as we were dealing with some of those original complaints, I learned that there are other resources out there, for instance, with Rumpke in particular, who operates a transfer station, who we brought these concerns to. They explained they'll pick up some of the issues where folks want to get rid of a couch or, a chair or something like that. It does not weigh a ton. So why are they paying $60? But their hauler, and I think other haulers have a similar program. I just know Rumpke covers a lot of Delaware County. They'll do free pickups, then you just have to call ahead. So
But my understanding is they want you on a weekly, monthly contract to pick it up,
if you're a customer,
If you're a
but they won't pick it up if you're not a customer, correct?
I,
That's my
No.
understanding.
I don't think so.
Right.
So if I'm that guy out there in Radnor, and you gotta get me on a contract to get a better rate, I feel like I'm being finessed, so.
Well, I think that, from our perspective, they likely have a contract with someone, or else what are they doing with their trash, right? So a lot of the issue that we heard was from City of Delaware residents, because City of Delaware did not have that free pickup program previously. And they were directing those residents to go use the transfer station because it was cheaper than paying for a pickup through the city. Well, they've, I believe, since changed that, where they have multiple pickups, and they're able to, I think, have a different situation where they can schedule those pickups. So I think that has also defrayed a lot of the I think complaints that we were getting, was because the city did change their method instead of just kind of directing them to the transfer station, realizing that that was not a cost-effective option anymore. They changed their pickup policies.
I don't think Delaware City's the issue. I think that's all been kind of cleaned
Yeah,
up and taken
exactly.
care of, and there was some,
No, I don't think they ever were the issue, but I think that when ours was cheap, they would just direct them to use it. Not then, once it wasn't, they, figured out a way to pick those up. So I think there was some confusion when we changed ours as to what the city's policies were, and that's since been clarified, and I think that's an easy solution for folks that live in the city to use that option.
well, I can tell you at the fair, I was working the fair booth, and I got a complaint, and he was not nice. So he was very adamant how he felt he'd been mistreated, and it was hard for me to justify or try to explain to him, and the more I tried to justify or explain it, the worse it got. And all I'm saying is, those are the kind of things that can happen under the radar, no one catches them till after the fact, but I know if I went to buy an item and it went up 400% from last year to this year, I'd probably, well, one, I wouldn't buy it if I didn't need it. So I just think it's unfortunate, and we've created some customer dissatisfaction on how I guess I would frame it. But I don't enjoy those calls when I get them, because it's hard for me to explain it. So,
Yeah, I get that, I understand that's, part of it is, on us for not, doing a better job of navigating that up front with the three of you.
we could have caught it, it could have been made known to us. The reality is we are where we are. The reality is we need to learn, all of us need to learn from that, make sure we ask all the questions that are, but you only know what you know. So, anything else?
No, I didn't have anything else. Thank you all.
All right.
Your budget presentations are always the best, so I enjoy
Yeah,
these.
you did an
Yeah.
excellent job. Commissioner
Yes.
Lewis, do you have anything?
No,
Thank you.
I
know.
don't, thank you so much.
One thing I'm gonna ask, you hear me ask it all the time, the user fee increase, that'll come up next year?
So Justin is doing a rate study right now. We're planning on having discussions with the three of you within the next several weeks, and we'll likely be recommending something in December.
Very good. You guys do a great job, and despite that mild criticism, which is irrelevant in the scheme of things, you do an outstanding job, and we're lucky to have all of you.
Yep.
You didn't introduce this person sitting behind you, I don't believe.
I did,
Yeah.
Gina.
Gina.
Oh, you did introduce her?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't hear you introduce her.
Gina is the mastermind behind this entire budget. should
Yeah, I was
just
gonna
She did a lot of nodding and proving what you were saying.
If I say anything incorrect, she'll tap me on the shoulder.
So,
No, thank you, great presentation.
Thank you very
thanks, Gina.
much. You did an outstanding
As
job,
always.
as Commissioner Benton alluded to.
Yes,
And we
absolutely.
thank you for the job you're doing, because frankly, our customers, which is not everybody in the county, but our customers have an outstanding system, and let's say they're under market based on a lot of places what they would have to pay. So they're very fortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. We appreciate the feedback and the support as always. And we always like coming in here and doing this presentation. This is one of the fun ones at the end of the year, especially when the numbers look like they do this year.
Yeah.
That's even better.
Tap
Yes,
fees are
right,
remarkable.
right. Oh, yes,
That's incredible.
yeah,
So we've
the
been pretty
revenues.
swamped the last several months, but trying to keep up with everything with the development and end of the year, trying to get on everybody's schedules before the paving plants close down. It's been hectic, but I think they're doing a good job keeping up.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good,
Thank you.
thanks.
I got this. Well, I can, no, actually, okay, yeah, that's fine. Someone's due. Let's hope and pray here. So upside down, maybe, let's figure it out. How many folks does it take? About this, let's do the other computer. Sorry.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. Good morning.
Morning.
Eric, introduce yourself.
Yes, Eric Penkel, Director and Attorney for the Delaware County Guardianship Services Board. I'd like to start off by congratulating Commissioners Merrill and Benton on your reelection. Commissioner Benton had a little bit of an easier night, it seems, but congratulations are in order nonetheless.
Thank you.
I also, after the last comment, feel a little bit like Wally Pipp following the best presentation, but I'm going to do my best nonetheless. So we are here today, I am here today on behalf of the Guardianship Services Board. Our mission, and I have that up here, and I kind of talk to you about that each time I come up here, is really about to be a resource in the community. And we continue to be a resource, and one of the things that I'd like to focus on a little bit, and I'll tell you a couple stories, but one theme I'd like you to focus on is safety when you think of the Guardianship Services Board. When folks in the community don't feel like they can do two things, stuff can fall apart. One, when they can't afford things. Communities really struggle when they can't afford things. And secondly, when they don't feel safe. And one of the big things that we do is try to be that ancillary service and that extra extension for police departments, for the courts, and for others in the community to help people feel safe. And we do that through a variety of means. Namely, we have several of our people who are criminals. And in fact, a few of them, if we weren't around, they'd be homeless in the community right now. And they'd be taking up resources from the police department. They'd be taking up resources from the, I should say more resources from the police department, more resources from local hospitals and things like that. What we're able to do is we're able to come in and provide a social service. We're able to find them the medical care that they need, the housing that they need. Is it perfect? No. Are we always successful? No. But I can tell you just the people that we have been able to keep them in a lot of cases out of trouble, saving court costs, saving police time, saving a whole bunch of other things. Awkward interactions with the public where people are unmedicated. And I have a list of a lot of our folks that are trespassed from a lot of places here in the city of Delaware. One person can't even leave their front door really without running into the risk of a trespass order. They are now in treatment, long-term treatment, that is hopefully going to save the county and the city lots of money in the long term. Our current board members, Adam Moore and J. Michael Nix, you all are familiar with Chief Moore, who's the city police chief of Delaware. J. Michael Nix is now a magistrate in Licking County Juvenile Court, and I have another one of my board members here, Adam Reinhardt, who is an magistrate in Union County, and he is the court administrator out in Union County. He is also has a private practice, and not sure if he sleeps ever. So he came in here on his off day, so to speak. Our community partners, I'd always like to thank our community partners, because without them, we wouldn't exist. The probate court, Jobs and Family Services, you all, the commissioners, thank you so much for your support as this public agency is in its infancy and continues to grow. The Mental Health Board, the Board of DD, Source Point, and Ohio Health. And I'd like to point out that I have helped add 3 different sources of funds since I've started, namely JFS, Source Point, and Ohio Health. Ohio Health sees the benefit in the Guardianship Services Board. And a quick story, we took emergency guardianship of a woman who was in Ohio Health's care over at Grady this past month. She was in her 70s, and she had nobody in her life. When I say she had zero family and zero friends, I mean zero family and zero friends. Her only person in the world that she talked to was her apartment manager, and even she didn't know her very well. She did have a husband. The husband sadly passed away, was one of the first people to pass away from COVID in the county. And he was buried out at the Cardington Cemetery back in 2020, March. But our ward that we took care for had nobody. And we were able, so she was full code when she went to the hospital, and without family, without friends, without anybody to make a decision for her, if we weren't there, she would still be sitting on a ventilator probably in Grady, waiting for the legal mechanisms to play out. But we were able to come in, meet with her in the brief period of time that we got to know her. We were able to give her a dignified parting from here, from this earth. She sadly passed away. And most importantly, what I'm really proud of is that I was able to do a lot of legwork after she passed away because there was no family, there was no friends. We were able to get her buried next to her husband. So she is going to rest in peace for the rest of her life next to her husband. When you look at her husband's obituary from 2020, there was literally nobody listed. It was her. They had each other. And if we weren't here, she would have been cremated by the city at some point in time, put in a box, and somebody would have done something with her eventually. But that is the sad reality of when people die and they don't have those family and friends that probably we all take for granted at any given time. So I wanted to highlight that story to kind of show you where in that instance, saving the medical community and the healthcare community at large lots of money by being able to come in, take them out of a hospital setting, get them out, either whether that be, making end-of-life decisions for them or getting them out in the community and nursing home or other things like that. So I wanted to highlight that. And last year's budget, I do not have the capability of whoever the boss was back here that did the PowerPoint, but so mine's much more simple. We had a budget this year of $467,000 and change. We received contributions of $282,500. We're at about $340,000 into that budget this year, and we're gonna have a pretty good, not a huge carryover, but a carryover into next year. And everything that I'm saying financially is completely aided by Mr. Navi back there, who is an awesome person that we should not lose for anything. He's an amazing guy. So that was our budget last year. We had four full-time employees this year, and we just added our fifth, who started last week. We actually got her from Morrow County. She worked in their hospital for 12 years, and she actually came here and took a pay cut to work for the Guardianship Services Board. She wasn't happy about that, but she saw what we are doing and how we are helping people. So we have 5 full-time employees now. We have no plans to add an additional employee next year. That will be our, unless the program or the agency grows exponentially, we should be okay with the 5 employees next year, so we won't be adding any personnel. We are, unlike regional sewer, personnel heavy. That is where the majority of our budget comes from. Salary and wages and fringe benefits. This year, our board approved the budget of $544,000 and change, which is a $80,000 increase. That increase can be accounted to 2 main things. One, that 5th employee is now here all year, and that's where the majority of that increase is coming from. Our contributions, what we're hoping for here, JFS, I've spoken with Bob Anderson, that's squared away. Source Point, we're still waiting on the decision of their grant. Probate Court has agreed. The Mental Health Board is actually, that would be a decrease for them in request, which I'm sure they won't be upset about. And the DD Board would be a slight increase from what their contributions were for this year. So what I kind of wanted to do for a minute is highlight some of what we do. Because, you know, Guardianship Services Board, what does that mean? And I'm gonna direct your attention, the hand does not show up on the big screen, but our main thing is face-to-face contacts, getting out in the community and visiting our people at least once a month. And if you look at these are numbers that we provide the DD Board quarterly. And we also provide numbers for the Mental Health Board on a semi-annual basis. And I look forward to creating our annual report that we send out to all of our community partners, and we will, and I will do that by the end of December, year-end report. So just this past quarter, the number of face-to-face meetings and individuals we served was 142 face-to-face meetings. After-hours contacts. That means after 4:30, before 8:30 in the morning, there were 167. A lot of those were one individual who was going through a very tough time. Some of that ended up in police involvement and hospitalizations and things of that nature, and a few late nights, but we've got her in a better, stable situation now too, so hopefully that from 171 to 167, if you're looking at after-hours contacts, we're hoping will actually decrease in this coming quarter. But all told, this year, we've seen our people close to 900 times, 800, 900 times. So we are out there day in and day out. And in those numbers are veterans that we help. We work with our Veteran Services Commission, and I help veterans kind of understand what the Veteran Services Commission can offer them and what we can do. We get them in Metro Housing. We're getting a couple of our veterans on Metro Housing, which I'm very proud of. And the one in particular is going to be living out on his own for the first time. Also, from this time last year in October, when Brandy McCoy started, we were at about 16 folks that we served. We were up to 43, so we've more than doubled in the course of a year. We are now at 41 because two of our folks sadly passed away. One of them was the individual I talked to you about, and another one also passed away, so we're at 41, and there are a lot of referrals in the pike. There just are. It's not gonna stop, and they're gonna continue to come. So what do we actually do? Like we say, we go out and visit. So here's what, when we go out and visit with the folks, here's the social work that we're doing. You know, we're looking at, when we go visit them, their orientation, their environment, their grooming, their memory, their mood, housing concerns, what services they need, what kind of medical decisions need to be made, and orders, and reaching out to pharmacies and doctor's offices, managing that medication, sleep, nutrition, mental health concerns. Big one is suicidal and homicidal ideation. Identifying that and then getting folks like Southeast into homes when necessary to help get folks through difficult times that they're having. Behavior concerns, risk factors, financial needs. There's always something going on in our folks' life, namely because they are the most vulnerable in our community. They really are. And we are helping them day in and day out, week in and week out. As I said, it's not 100% perfect, but, you know, I go to court with them if they have a criminal case. I am gonna help one of our vets hopefully get something expunged, because he really wants that expunged. You know, there are just the miscellaneous category of life that we all go through, and we all have the faculties to handle. These folks just don't have that, and they don't have the family, they don't have the friends, they don't have that infrastructure that we all have in our lives. So, with that, I don't have anything further, and would be happy to answer any questions, comments, concerns that you all have. I would like to say before you do that, I live in Scioto Reserve, so when he said that that project was gonna last until 2026, my heart sank. Because it's, the green tubes are very prominent in my neighborhood. So the 2026 number, maybe I can call him and get it bumped up on the list, so to speak. But I'm happy to answer any questions, please.
Eric, what's your request for the county this year?
Sorry, it was 168,35.
I did some simple math, I came up with 101,000, but you think 116?
Yeah, it's 168,35.
And last year, I don't believe we participated.
No, we used our carryover.
And you and I've been somewhat, I'm not gonna use the word, I'll use the word, I've been somewhat critical of the
Sure.
productivity, and I think that was some of my concerns. I've had questions in the vehicle area, and we're not adding any more vehicles.
No, sir.
Okay. Good, and
In fact, I'm going to get them
I
serviced by
assume your
Ron
third,
today.
I assume your third hire is a person that works with the clients?
Yes,
And if I heard you correctly, you say we have 41 clients now?
currently, yes.
And back when I asked you that question originally, and I can find it in my folder here, but I'm not gonna look it up, I think you said each person could handle 40 to 50. Does that sound right?
No, so what, in talking with Deanna Brandt and Chris Hodge, what we said as the program grew, as the agency grew, when each of our social workers got to 20, which they did, is when we would hire another one so we could continue to grow the program. What I'd like to keep that number at is somewhere between 25 and 30 after, if I did say 40 to 50.
I think it's written down here, but I'm not gonna look it up, so.
That's fine.
Okay.
If I did say 40 to 50, I mean, after living this for a couple years, I think the magic number is about 25 to 30, especially if we're gonna continue to do all the things that we do for our folks. So with that third social worker, we're able to grow and not slack on any services that we're providing. And also, I mean, this was set up as a public agency, so you need someone to direct it and you need someone to do the finances. So that's
Yeah,
two
okay.
folks.
And actually, I believe in the program.
Okay.
Judge H and I've had several conversations on this. I've been a supporter since day one.
I appreciate it, yes.
From the chair I sit in and from my background, that we are fiscally conservative, fiscally responsible. So the question is, when do you add that next person? I'd probably say we did it a little too quickly here, but it's done. But I just want us to be aware that we need to be somewhere close to 70% of capacity, whatever that number is. You say it's 25 to 30. I have 40 to 50 written down, but we should be getting, before we add that next person. And that's one thing I ask, and
Sure.
and I want to be supportive, but just ask you to be aware and considerate of that concern.
Where my number in my head is when we hit 75. When we hit 75 folks, 75 to 80 folks is when I'll approach community partners and say, I think it's time that we add an additional person, especially when you look at the structure of other guardianship services boards. When they get to that threshold, you start to build layers, because I'm supervising the social workers right now. But we won't be asking or hiring an additional person until we hit at least 75 folks. So it'll be another 35 individuals that we bring on before we ask for another person.
So if the number is 75 and you have three, you'll be around 25
25
clients
apiece.
before you ask for, okay.
Yes.
And those are my comments. And
No other comments? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Barb.
I know Cassian F. is very grateful for the services that those who, with mental health challenges, who continually recycle through the jail. She told me about one gentleman who was just I mean, he, you know, the problem not taking meds, and then, of course, financial, but just a myriad of difficulties. And so he would just keep recycling through. And so it was a great relief when Guardian Services took over his care.
Yes.
And I don't believe he's been back lately.
There's a
you
few of
probably know
those.
who I'm talking about.
I do. Well, I can narrow it down to about.
You can narrow it down.
I can narrow it down. Yeah,
Right.
we've had pretty good success. It's not foolproof by any means. Nothing's foolproof, but I'm very proud of the work that our folks have done, and I'm also proud of the fact that I haven't had any turnover yet.
Boy, that is.
In a world in which nobody seems to work anywhere for longer than 10 minutes. And I've been doing these leadership courses through HR and through the Chamber of Commerce this last year. And I can't remember what Justin said or Matt said, but it's something like 2 weeks. Someone knows whether or not they're gonna quit their job. Year and a half, over a year for each of the employees that we've hired, and we're going strong, we're going good. And I'm very, very proud of that fact.
That's good. We got a lot of challenges, so that's really good. Thank you. I'd like to thank the board, and thank you. Did you wish to say anything or add anything?
Given the opportunity of being a lawyer, yeah, I'm always going to say
Of
something.
course, yeah.
Sorry, I'm not a voter here as well, so I could add to that. But truly, we appreciate, number one, having the opportunity to be in front of you, and we appreciate the understanding of being fiscally conservative. We have that same posture, and your direction always helps us to make sure that we are focused on not only the history and the story that we're telling for these people, but also the cost. And we hope that you see the other side of the coin. We know there's a dollar spent out, and there's not necessarily what can be seen as a public return, but we tell you that less time in jail, less social services used, a higher level given to those individuals because they're being advocated for. We're giving a voice to the voiceless. We're giving a voice to people who don't necessarily come before you all the time and who do get recycled through the system because nobody is there to speak for them. So I hear the fiscal responsibility, and it is primary in our consideration too, and so I appreciate that reminder as always. But again, this is one of those things where unfortunately we have to go look at long-term dollars that we're saving the county, we hope, by doing this and intervening when we get the opportunity to do that. And so as our numbers grow, we hope to continue to show you why the value is so great and why we can provide you that full value and why your dollars are well spent with us and maybe not with another organization. So we truly appreciate that too, so I hope you
And
do
I
that.
don't disagree with anything you said. I agree with that. We just want to make sure we do it in a very fiscally responsible, efficient manner. That's the only thing we're asking for.
100%.
And that, you're confirming that.
Yeah, and if again,
Did you understand?
yeah, we have our public meetings. We'd love for you to come over and see what we do so that you have an idea of why we get to do what we get to do every day, and we're thankful we get to do it as well. So hope that helps.
And Eric, I understand you're going to be in New Digs
Thank
before
you.
long.
Oh, yes, we are moving to Bigsby. John Melvin is very excited. I'm trying to convince him to cut a hole in the wall so we can connect the space and conference rooms A and B. So I'm very, very thankful that the county is allowing us to use that space. Thank you so much. Thank you for reminding me that. I had that written down and I skipped over that. The DD board is out-ish and things are going crazy over there. Of course, you all probably heard about the bats and the bees and the sewage. So it's an interesting place to work. Looking forward to Bigsby, being around some old friends, Soil and Water, the engineer's office, knowing a lot of those folks and having worked with them for decades, over a decade. So I'm looking forward to being out there around some familiar faces. And hopefully John cuts a hole in the wall. He really doesn't want to do it, but hopefully I can convince him to do that. But everybody's been very great and very gracious with their time and money and effort to help us transition over to Bigsby. We haven't started yet. Last I talked to John, he says, I'll get to it in December or something. I said, okay, go whenever you're ready, John, we're ready and we'll move. And I'll move the stuff myself if I
Well,
have to.
John will do a good job, and
100%.
I'm not a maintenance person, but I'm sure from John's perspective, cutting a hole in a wall between, it probably hurts, so I'm sure, but I'll let you work that out with him.
Every time my wife asks me to hang something in the house, I stress the fact that we're putting a hole in the wall. And I'm not the best spackler, so when we decide to move that picture, there's gonna be a little mark there.
And I wasn't aware of that issue, so, but it's not real hard to walk out the door into the other
No.
door. But, so,
No, it's
anyway.
not, it's not.
So anyway, that's up to John and Tracy. Separate note, Judge Himanowski's in my Rotary Club,
Oh.
and maybe in the spring, you and Judge H together could do a presentation in one of
I'd
our
love to.
programs. Because he's the one that approached all of us initially. You can reach out to him, or I'll reach out to him, and it's a matter of getting the program chairman this year and getting on the schedule. That might be a good program. It's certainly something
That's
they've
a
not
good idea.
heard.
I'd love to
And,
do that. I'd love to take the mystery out of the word Rotary, because I've heard it for 14-plus years living in Delaware County, and I still don't know what the heck it is. So it would be awesome to actually go and give a presentation to all the folks that are a part of that. I would relish that opportunity.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, folks.
Any other comments? Any observations before we adjourn? With that, without any objection, we